Hello everyone, I'm your hostess with the mostest 8-second gaming, and in today's video we are going to be talking about how you can start to read zones like a pro. Reading zones is one of the toughest things in Apex, but guys, seriously, once you understand it, it will put you into a lot better situations because you'll be able to start to rack up a lot of placement points and be able to fly through the ranks. So we're going to be breaking it all down, but if you guys find this video useful, please hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help my channel out. And with that said, let's jump straight into things. So the first thing you have to understand is zone logic. Now, zone logic is basically just how the zone reacts to things, how the zone works. And Respawn has done their best to make it as random as possible so that people like myself are not able to read it as accurately as they have been in the past. In previous seasons, the zone followed very set rules, and you could use those rules to your advantage because you basically knew from the first circle where it was going to end pretty much every single time. Now, however, it is a little bit more random, though there are still some certain rules that you can apply to help yourself in the long run. And the first rule is that the zone does tend to pull to the side that it favors. When looking at your map, you need to break it into 4 distinct quadrants. Draw an imaginary line in your head running from top to bottom in the middle and side to side in the middle. And then after that, look and see where the zone is favoring for the side that it's going on. Because say it's favoring the bottom right side of the map, it will tend to continue to pull to that bottom right side. Now, I do say tend to, and I am using my words carefully here because, like I did mention before, it is a little bit more random. The zone can juke you out. It can just completely pull back to a random spot. That's what Respawn wants, and that's what makes the game a little bit more unpredictable. But these baseline rules do still apply, so I do want to go over them. That's the first rule, so let's move into the second rule, and that is that it does tend to not end with a lot of space unplayable. If you guys have played for multiple seasons, you'll know that some endgames back in the day used to have spots where like half of the zone was just completely unplayable. It would either be off the map completely, be near a mountain, or just be in a random spot that you couldn't really play around. And that caused a lot of issues not only in ranked but also ALGS, and caused a lot of people to complain to Respawn, so they did have to rewrite the algorithm once again. Now, it does still happen from time to time, but it is very rare for a circle to pull into a spot that doesn't have a lot of playable space. So once you use Rule 1 to see which side of the map the ring is favoring, you can then start to narrow it down even further because you'll see around the map what spots are playable and what spots are not playable. And also do keep in mind that it doesn't have to be natural terrain that makes a spot unplayable. The quote-unquote man-made structures in the game also make spots unplayable. So for example, there are 0 endgames this season that end inside Countdown. Countdown has a lot of unplayable space, so they don't have any zones that end in there. But now moving into the third rule, this is that rings that touch are going to continue to hard pull. Going off of rule number 1, how I said that they tend to go to the same side that they're favoring, this rule plays off of that one. If you have a control legend and you're able to scan the beacon to see where the next ring is going, or you're in the game long enough to see ring number 2 close, if zone 2 and zone 1 are touching each other at any point, it's most likely going to continue to hard pull to that side. The ring is heavily favoring that, so you can start to use the same rules to figure out that it's just going to continue to hard pull. And then you can start to place yourself to that side of the ring to help you with any rotations. But once you figure that out, then you can apply rule number 2 to figure out if there's any unplayable space and see where the zone will be pulling based off of that. There is a lot of checks and balances, I understand, but trust me, once you kind of understand it, it'll become muscle memory and you won't really have to think about it. But now rule number 4 is don't be afraid to get it wrong. This is just going to be one for your mental strength. You are never going to be able to predict the zones 100% of the time with 100% accuracy. Not even pro players can do that. It's very rare that you will get it every single time. Reading zones is still a skill, but it's just as much luck because again, like I've said before, it is random right now. Using these rules and using your game knowledge, it still will be a gamble whether or not you're going to be able to predict it 100% accuracy. So if you happen to not predict it correctly, don't kick yourself, it's not that big of a deal. Just look at the zone, figure out why you think it pulled that direction instead of the direction you thought it was going to, learn from it, and then move on. The only mistake that you can ever make in a situation is learning nothing from it. So even if you get the ring wrong, you're still learning from it, so it is still a win in that situation. But to help you guys visualize this and kind of learn it a little bit more, what we're going to do is actually jump into somewhere where you can see some of these rules being put to the test, and this is actually something that you guys can use yourself if you want to. This is a tool built by Apex Legends Status, so if you head to apexlegendsstatus.com, go to their tools, go down to the ring Gussr game. What it will do is it'll show you a map from Apex, and it'll have the first 2 rings on it. After that, you have to kind of predict where the zone is going to pull, and it will give you points off of how accurate you are. And if you look at the top 10 leaderboards here, some people, like Sergeant Buttercups, are able to predict it with scary accuracy in very short amount of time. So if they're in an actual game, they'll be able to see the first or second ring, predict where it's going to be, and start to set their team up with crazy amounts of speed, and that will help them really efficiently in the game. Now, you don't have to be like these people who are able to get it in 1.6 seconds, 2.7 seconds, anything like that, because that is people that just sit and play this game constantly and study zone knowledge constantly, so they know exactly where the ring is going to end in 2.4 seconds. You don't need that. You can take your time, figure out where the zone is going to pull, and you don't have to get it within 2.4 seconds. You can take a minute if you want. You just have to think about it and then get your team moving in a decent amount of time. And I also do want to mention just quickly that this game is not 100% accurate. So when you hop into this for yourself, if you're starting to play, sometimes the zones will not be possible anymore. It does have a database of zones that were possible, but when it was built, I don't think they've updated that database over time. So just keep that in mind when you are playing. If it pulls somewhere that does have like a lot of unplayable space, that probably was a possible endgame when this game was first built. So don't feel too badly. And remember, like I said, if you get it wrong, it's not the worst thing in the world. So let's start playing and see exactly what happens. Now this one is on Storm Point and it's pulling up towards Lightning Rod, Zeus Station, something like that. But this does have a lot of unplayable spaces. As you can see, there's a lot of rocks here. There's a lot of hilly terrain. So I would wager that it does continue to pull up the hill and it probably ends somewhere out here. So that is where I'm going to guess. I'm going to say somewhere around here. And as you can see, yeah, it does continue to pull up the hill and it does end somewhere over here. So that's actually a very solid guess because this would allow you to position yourself up here and then your rotation would be very easy. So as you can see, I used the first couple rules to figure out, hey, it's favoring this side. There's a lot of unplayable space here, so it's going to end somewhere over here. So let's check our next one. And this is on World's Edge. It's going to be a climatizer zone. Climatizer zones are fairly popular. Figuring out which side of climatizer it's going to pull to is very hard. It does tend to pull either side very evenly. So even though this does favor climatizer, figuring out which side it's going to pull to is pretty hard. Though I would say that it is going to probably pull to this side because there's a little bit more in it. So I would say that it's going to pull over here. And as you can see, it does pull to that side because there is a little bit more of this side being favored. It doesn't really look like it, but it does have more of this side being favored. So you can see that again, because it's hard touching on this side, it's going to continue to hard pull. This side has a little bit more being favored, so it continues to pull to that side. So you can really see how these types of examples are allowing myself to put my team into a better position because I know, hey, it's going to be a climatizer zone. I will hold this building because this is going to be a building that's going to be an end zone. And then you can start to see that the placement points are going to be able to rack up. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video and learned something new. If you did, please remember to hit that like and subscribe button. It really does help. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.